Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia, and I'm on the marketing team at the Organization for Professional Astrology. And I'm here today with professional astrologer Arlan Wise.
Hi.
Um, Hi, Arlan. How are you?
Good.
It's great to have you here. Arlan will be leading a peer group session at the 2024 OPA retreat, which will be held in Park City, Utah. And it focuses on celebrating the Aquarian shift. Hi, Arlan. Once again, thank you for joining me.
Oh, I'm happy to be here to do this. Yeah. Be on
Fantastic.
the other end of it because I've done the interviews. So it's
Oh,
interesting to be the one sitting here.
fantastic. Well, I'll have to
Yeah.
catch up on those.
Yeah.
Um, well, we'll jump right in. Before diving into what the retreat will cover and your role at the retreat, can you tell us a little bit about your background and experience as a professional astrologer?
Sure. Okay. Well, I have been doing charts professionally, which to me means you take money for it and you do a chart for someone you don't know who they are. And I did my first one in 1979. I had been teaching myself, and then I went to my very first conference, and it was a NASO, National Astrology, but I can't remember what it means. It was in Atlanta, and it was so cool because there I was with all these astrologers, and I came back saying, I know what they know. So I started, putting my shingle out, so to speak, and I've been doing consulting ever since. My astrology is kind of as you go through the years, you kind of form your own astrology. It's eclectic. I'm basically humanistic, following Dane Rudyard, psychological, because I've studied with Liz Green, many webinars. I've studied with Michael Luton quite a bit, and they're both, psychological astrologers. I studied Vedic for 3 years very intensely, but it is such a deep system that I realized I was scratching the surface. But I've taken what I can use from Vedic, and it's nice to understand it. And I've learned a lot from my clients, which is what happens. The more work you do, the more you hear people say the same thing. And if you really listen, they are describing their transits. And so I've learned a lot from them. And I've been with OPA since 1994. That was the second conference I ever went to, and I saw an advertisement for a conference that was going to teach you how to be an astrologer instead of teaching you astrology. And I thought, ooh, this is cool. And I went in, and there was this karmic recognition when I saw the board there. And the next thing I knew, in 1994, Monica Domino, who's president at that time, put me on the board as newsletter editor. And I knew nothing about, I was barely getting into computers. I knew nothing about online publishing. And I learned, because basically what I've learned about life as well as astrology is that if you say yes, you move forward rapidly. So you just say, I said yes to it. And I have been on the board of OPA since then. I was president for 2 terms, actually 3 terms, because now when we just split, I've been president of the C6, the old OPA. Um, what else would Maurice Fernandez used to call me OPA's grandmother, though I'd rather be called OPA's godmother. So we'll call that. But, OPA is very dear to me because it is such an important organization, because it is teaching you how to be a better astrologer as opposed to teaching you astrology. And what's wonderful about the retreats, and, I was there first one when we put it together, just the concept was astrologers should be somewhere where they're all by themselves. They can't access their phone. There actually weren't so many cell phones in 2001, but you couldn't get online, and you were just concentrating on yourself and your astrology and being with other astrologers. And so from 2001, that has grown into what we're going to see in Park City, which is just a very vibrant, wonderful retreat, which is where everybody is together. You're not sitting and being taught at, you are actually part of it when you work in these small groups. So that's terrific. For many of the retreats, I taught writing workshops for astrologers. That was kind of my niche. And I still do. I did one for Kepler a couple of years ago. And it's important because it's all about learning how to communicate, efficiently. And since I have 5 planets in air, communication is my thing, kind of. um, so, and I remember one OPA retreat, some woman had come, and at the end she said, "It's the first conference I've ever been to where I didn't feel alone." And so that besides being in the group and bonding with the people who you're in your group with, um, there's activities where you really, everybody sits together, eats together, and you're just part of a team, you're part of a group, and it's a wonderful experience to go to an OPA retreat. Now, the peer group, which I'm going to be teaching, is very dear to my heart, and it is, imagine you're working with a leader, and I don't think it's not like I'm teaching. My metaphor is that I'm the one who's driving the car, but we're all on the journey together. And so you work with this group of 5 and you get to know them and you're all peers. The only requirement is that you have to have been in practice, meaning doing charts for money for strangers for at least 6 months. So you have to, but otherwise it doesn't matter your level of astrology, what kind of astrology you do. It's about helping each other, not judging each other. And it's a 3-day process. And the first one is where everyone presents the chart of a client where the reading didn't go well. And the client may have thought, oh, gee, that was great. But somehow when they left, you had this feeling of, I didn't do such a good job. Something's off. And then you present that and the group works with you to discuss it. Well, maybe it was them, maybe it was you. Look, your Saturn's on their sun. Maybe you felt you were too harsh, or their Saturn's on your sun, and oh boy, that you didn't feel good about that. And that's how we get to know each other and to bond. The second day of the retreat is the core day, which is where we're doing readings for each other. And it can be daunting and it can be very scary, and but it's important. And you can use whatever style of astrology you use. And once again, nobody is judging you, but it's artificial because you're speaking to your client in front of of a group, and you're limiting yourself to 45 minutes in terms of time. But it's really a privilege to watch how other people work, and that's a really cool part of it. And to get a reading from one of your peers, and that's nice. And then to be able to rise to the challenge of, reading someone and kind of ignoring that there's people in back of you watching. And then we talk about how it felt for the reader, how it felt for the person receiving, and what the comments were of the people who watched. And once again, not being judgmental and not saying, oh, you're not astrology, why didn't you say that this was happening? But more just general comments about the reading. And then on the third day, we used to be called the business plan. Now we call it the vision plan. And we talk about our practice. What are our goals? Where do you want to go? And by now, everybody is bonded and likes each other and, helps each other with ideas, helps each other to encourage, has ideas of maybe you'd be really good at doing this thing or that thing. And so it's a very wonderful day that happens. And it's not something where you pass or fail. Now, if you're interested in OPA certification, you have to take 3 peer groups, and you take them with 3 different leaders, which is important because this is the personality and the synastry with your leaders. But it's 3 people are watching you go through this process and see if you're, getting better or not, or if you listened, if one astrologer, one peer group leader said, well, you could work on your consultations. I think you need consulting skills, which is now part of OPA certification. then you see the next leader would say, well, is the consultation getting better? Is she working better with the client? So it's kind of ideas like that. Now, what's really great about doing this at the retreat is that we're in person. After COVID came and we had to go online, we started doing the peer groups online, and you had to do them like, because you can't do 8 hours on Zoom. So we had to break it down into two, each day would be 2 days in 4-hour slots. And then you'd wait a week and do another two sessions, and then a third 2 sessions. And so it splits it up, it breaks it up, and still 4 hours on Zoom is a lot. The last peer group I gave, someone just said, it's been 3 hours, I'm brain dead, I can't do anything. So the special thing is this doesn't happen when you're together. There's something about being together with the group in the physical presence and going through the whole day as a day and let it flow. It's really terrific. And this is one of the few chances you really get to be at a peer group in person. We're doing a lot of online ones, but as you say, this is going to be a really more rich and terrific experience to have, to be with your group and to be there in person. And the other thing I would say is everybody teaches each other. And that's one of the wonderful things, because everybody knows something that somebody else doesn't know. The last peer group I did, I learned a great way to set up a sliding scale. One of the participants, she had it on her website, had the questions, and I'd never seen anything like that. And it was great. So, and this is also the mixing of ages, where younger ones have got the technology down and we're struggling with it, the older we are. So it's also wonderful to be able to receive, from your peers. So I think that's what kind of I want. Any other questions you want to say, or?
Oh, well, I think you may have covered actually most of what I was going to ask you, but that's
Oh, good.
fantastic. And I think that, people should feel encouraged to join the retreat.
Yeah.
You mentioned, it doesn't really matter your skill level, but it does matter, that you have been doing charts for money
Yes.
essentially for at least 6 months. So I think
Yeah.
that, anyone who's on their journey of, making their practice professional they're close to that or approaching that. So I think people should feel encouraged to go to the retreat.
It's really helpful. I mean, I have to say, I've done it many times, and each time I receive something. It's wonderful. And let me just mention that if you're interested in OPA certification, you do 3 peer groups. You take a consulting skills class, which is important, and you take an astronomy class, because you really, it just adds another level to really understand it's not on paper, there's something happening out there in the sky, and that's terrific. And if you know your astronomy, then you can just take a test. You don't have to take the full course. And OPA certification is important, and it's different because it's experiential. You don't sit down and take a test and pass fail. You go through the experience. And once you're OPA certified, we've got your back. OPA stands behind you, and, you're recommended on the website. And it's a really valuable thing for you to do for yourself.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Arlan, for giving us a preview of what we can expect or one can expect going to the retreat. Again, it's in Park City, Utah this October. And thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Hope to see everybody there.